Okay, my friends, if you have been watching, I said there is a fellow that put all of these pictures up here. Every one of them is a different picture. Most of them are, 90%, let's say. And they're just phenomenal. So I am going to do a tribute to this guy, and here he is right here. I don't know how you exactly pronounce that. I'm going to go with Breet. Let's go with that. Breet Thomas. Until I hear from him, and I'm hoping I will. I messaged him. I told him I was going to try to use. I was going to use his pictures, and I will attribute to him absolutely fabulous work. And things like this. Who can explain that? Who can explain this? And he's got things that, look at this. I just grabbed one offhand over here, just to show you something. Look at this, watch this. Look at that. Look at that picture. And I think I know what it is. This is the thing. And here's what he has to say about it. Look. He says, this is the most bizarre rock formation I've ever seen. I posted a wide-angle photo on the comments. Look at the maroon. I've never seen that color in nature. I was so surprised at the photo. I loaded it onto my phone and hiked over there to make sure the color was right, and almost pure white rock sandwiching this layer of vivid purple. Now, this appears to be at Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument, and I sincerely appreciate the fact that he is so open with his research here, and he's showing all kinds of evidence, and I think I do understand what this is. And I look at all of these, the different things that I've learned over the course of time, and to associate to literally biology. And this is what he's showing. He's showing anomalies that nobody to this point has ever been able to explain. How do you explain that? You know, get a geologist and tell me how that happened. Well, the only way you can understand how it happened is to not be a geologist and just be a regular person and look at it and say, what is this? That looks like some kind of a tube. Almost looks like a tube. And what is this all broken off, these little chunks? Why would that happen? And what is this? This almost looks like another tube running down here and some more over here. And this pointed spot here. What could possibly have created this? This is what I want to engage with Breet about. Because if he's going out there and actually there, what I want him to do is look at certain spots that I can point out, and I will point them out in all of his pictures. And I mean, he's got a ton of them, and they are very, very nicely done. All of these. And every one of them has a description. I'm just going to grab another one here. I don't know what this is. I have no idea. But look at this. And here's what he has to say about this one. It's very nice. This is just wonderful to be able to do this. Now, this is apparently at Vermilion Cliffs. Bizarre, wonderful at the same time. Mother Nature likes her science fiction even now and again. This definitely looks like it belongs on another planet. Well, I understand what this is too. I'm quite sure. But if he was here and on site and actually able to look at the things that I would want him to look at, we could make it a more definitive conclusion. Because I can show him exactly where to look on these things for different anatomical features. Because it's biology. And biology doesn't get too far away, no matter what kind of a creature it was. There's blood vessels. You know, there's structures inside, there's membranes, and all these things I understand now from working with the mud fossils. Okay, before we get into his fabulous work, let me show you what I have to show you about my DNA reports. These are online, and they are, I had 3 things done. I had a lung. Okay, there's 3 things done. And I extracted the stuff and sent it off to them. I didn't send them the whole things because some of them are gigantic. So I sent them 3 samples, and this was done in 2015. It took almost 3 months to do it. And these were the 3 samples. And this is one of them, the lung. Another one is I call it a mud tip. It's a finger. I had a hand. I had all that stuff. And the other one was a giant fingertip and the lung. Now, this is all the details of the whole thing. And this was a very, very serious test. This was no, I said I want to be absolutely 100% sure. And this was the way that was done. And excellent quality DNA was obtained from the 36-inch tip, which I'll show you, and the lung, which is right here. Now, the 36-inch tip, I had to break down and go deep in, well, not deep, but down inside and get the blood. It was dried out, and it came out as like, brownish, flakes and so forth. Now, and I'll show you these. And it came out being Homo sapien, mitochondrial B gene, and D loop region, which he assures me means that it was modern human. And they did all of the, it was as deep as you can get for the test. So this is no monkey business here. This was a real thing. So there is the DNA test of my stuff. And I just ran across this guy, Breet, very recently. So I'm really hoping he'll work with me, boy, because I got some questions. I could really have somebody out on the street look into this stuff. Tyson is also out on the road looking into stuff, fabulous stuff, and he's at Tyson's Mudfossil Adventures, and he's got some gigantic things, and he does good research. So. And then I'll tell you how all that got started too, because it started with Scott Wiles out there in Oregon. And as I was just looking back at the things that Scott sent me, he sent me something that I think is related to the glue that this kid was talking about, asking if there was a formation. He said, how could this possibly be? What could this possibly be? And I commented, and I know he knows about my comment because somebody else, he replied to that other person saying, anyway, everybody thinks I'm crazy because of the spectacular things, and they're spectacular beyond belief. All right, so don't forget, there's a DNA test. Now, this is what Scott sent me. Now, let me talk to you about this. This is the glue that glues tendons primarily right up to here to whatever they implant in. There's a glue. All right, this is what they call taphany. You see these? There's a couple of possibilities here. One of them is it's the interstitium between layers, and another one is the glue. And the stuff that Scott sent me, this I believe is the glue, and it's that webby, gluey stuff that holds the tendons. Now the tendon is gone, and I that's all I can take. But this has got me perplexed because this glues to something here, whatever this is. And now it almost looks like it's bone. I would expect this to be the attachment between tendons going this way and into muscle and the bone. And this is the really tough gluey stuff that glues it to the bone. However, the bones didn't seem to hold up. So could this be like an organ or something? I have no idea. But this I can tell you right now. Well, I can't tell you for sure, but I can show you the other side of this. You see these? These are like, they look to me for all the world like tendons. And this little gluey stuff here is the Slurpee that moves this up and down, lets these tendons flow through here. So down below, though, is the gluey stuff. Down here. This is the real gluey stuff. And it's really nasty gluey, and it's tough. And then the tendons lock into that gluey stuff. And it sticks into whatever that is, I don't know. But I believe these are tendons. That's what they look like. And tendons have this little slippy stuff on them they call Slurpees. Small leucine-rich proteins. They're just a slimy thing so that the tendons can move around like this when, of course, it was alive. Now, this, I really can't tell you, but I can tell you one thing. That's where that glue is, and if you look on the other side, you can see the line right here, where it glues into, whatever it's gluing into, I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to dig into this a little bit and see what the substrate is here below the, whatever that is, the crust. I mean, it's clearly, obviously, there's no question it's biological. Plus, here's your vein. There's your vein blood right there, and there's your artery right here. That's how it works. You got a black and you got a red, and they're almost always right next to each other. Well, more often than not. And there's no question that is a seam. I mean, you know, according to whatever seam I've ever seen. And it's glued to whatever that is. Now, that didn't just happen. You show me some biology, some geology can explain that. There is no way. It's biology. Now, this was what Scott sent me, Scott Wiles. And Tyson saw this, and he you know, because I did a video on it, and Tyson saw it, and he says, I'm right down the street from this. He got a hold of Scott. They went together out and started looking around, and before long, Tyson got a drone, he got all kinds of stuff. He's doing a fabulous job at looking at these crazy things and how big they are, and he's showing that the traditional geological, you know, explanation just doesn't work. Just explain that to me. They can't. And now we have some other additional tools that, you know, working with the chemistry and so forth, that show where the blood congregates and all kinds of stuff. So this is real, and this was something from a very, very, very large creature. Now, the things I'm showing you now don't relate to Breit's work, but we will be getting into his stuff. Now, I found this shot here on the web, and I said, well, what biological part would this be if it was biology? I see a ball here. You see that ball? There's another one right here. There's another one over here, another one over here. They're all over the place. And there's one right next to it, right here. And something apparently was all right up to here and has eroded away. It's all I can take from this. Now, what is that ball? I'm saying everything's biology, so I have to show it's biology. And what is this strap? That arch. This is Arches, Utah, I believe, National Park. And that's the person walking up over the top of this arch. Now, I'm going to tell you right now what this is. This, my friend, is a strap that runs down to a ball that locked in to tissue, which was right to here and has eroded away. They come in a batch of them, one right after the other. There was another one right here. You see this circle right here? And that core, this one, would have run right down and landed on top of this one. All right, you follow me? This would have come, I believe, or maybe it would have come to this one, I don't know. Maybe it came right down to there. That's possible. Or it could have come right down to there, but whatever, it doesn't matter. This is the core, and this one has the same thing. Now, can I show this anatomically? I think I can. Would you like to see that? Well, of course you would. You see this? This is a picture from an injury where one of these aponeurosis tendon anchors. Now you have a couple types of tendons. Aponeurosis is this style. It's a flat sheet of tendon. It has a little strap that goes through a little hole, a little tiny hole in that strap. And that strap can pull and go back and forth. But the ball is supposed to anchor there and never pull out. They're supposed to, that's what these tendons and straps do. They lock into a position in your body, and then other things can pull away from them, and that's okay. But you don't want to pull that ball out. This is an injury. That right there is where that ball is supposed to be. So this is an injury. Now, what did we see in Arches? We saw a strap coming down, and it went to something down here, but all this stuff eroded away, so the ball was just sitting down here. All right, let's go back and look at it again. Don't forget what we're looking at here. It comes off of the mat, goes straight down into a ball which is normally locked in the flesh. The flesh has eroded away, or whatever this is. But this is on your stomach and your back and so forth. This is tendon that it's really tough, but it's sheets, very flat sheets. The other style is the rope style, which is the big round tendons. They have all kinds of little straps going back and forth amongst themselves. This is totally different. Aponeurosis is different, which is this. All right, so don't forget, what we were looking at before is that ball was pulled out of a layer of tissue which was here. Now, what that layer consists of, I don't know. I think it was flesh. I think that it anchored into flesh, which is weak, and it eroded. And that's the strap that comes up. And it would have gone through some kind of a hole, whatever. But that's exactly, to me, what we were looking at here when I showed you this other one right here. Same. All right, and they built those walls down in Peru and Bolivia and all those places, and a lot of other places, using these tendon mats. And where they have these little bumps sticking off them, that's where they broke off the tendons. That's all it is. I'm not kidding you. I looked at it very carefully. There's no question. They just break off these tendons and they use the mats. And they were flat. Some places are very, very flat. And they were moist when they cut them. And when they cut them, they brought them over and put them in place. And there was no seams anywhere. They just popped them like a big ball of putty. And these little things snapped off here, which I've shown that. Literally, I'm showing this stuff hundreds of times. And anyway, that's what this is aponeurosis tendon mat. And that was the ball, the anchor, pulled out. All right, so don't forget, now that's aponeurosis tendon. I will show you the other type of tendon. But here's where aponeurosis tendon is like on your stomach and your back and all that stuff. It's the flat sheets of tendon. All right, now look at this. You see that one right there? That's a foot. That's a foot. That's a gigantic, crazy looking foot. There's another one right there. There's another no-toe right there. I got stuff coming out of my ears. I mean, it's unbelievable. Anyway, this is the aponeurosis tendon, and that's, like I say, on your back and so forth. Here's another. See, there's a no-toe right there. We have, with the springs, here, let me show you something. All I want to do is show you a couple things that we had prior to finding Brait. But this is a no-toe with a spring inside of it. Now, it's got two springs. This one loads up, and that pin comes right up around like this to this. And when this loads up, it pulls this in, which would pull this in, which would lock this into that cavity. It looks like to me. That's the heel right here. There's another one of these little latchy looking things back here, whatever that does. And there's the heel. And here's what it looks like anatomically. Where is it? All right, here's what it looks like anatomically. Here's your heel, and there's the strap. You see the little strap coming up? So the heel is the ball, and that ball is in there. The strap comes up, it's snapped, and I can show you it wrinkles because it's a tendon. Tendons, when you break them, they create little wrinkles on them because they're under tension. They're pulled, they're like a rubber band, and when you click it and cut it, the top part wrinkles up a little bit. I'll show you that. Right about here, somewhere it broke. Right about right there. And the two springs work together. That's the only thing I can tell you. And this is this kind of foot. Now, Tish Egerton found, half a dozen of these, at least, I think. Now, I have several different styles. I show you that big Oompa Loompa looking one. I have this one here, which is flawless, like brand new. And I call them no-toes because the toes are built in. And these would have been inside of the enclosure as well. She's got several different styles too, I think. I don't know. All I can tell you is what I'm telling you. It is what it is. And again, there's that wrinkle zone. Remember I said there's going to be a wrinkle zone? Here it is right here. that strap would have gone right up to where the bone came down to sit in this cradle here. All right, so the bone would have come down to here. That strap would have come up to the bone, just like the other one, like anatomical foot today. But this is the key right here. That little bugger comes around, I believe, right up to here. I mean, it looks like a little strap coming out with a pin in it, a little hole in it. And if this rocked forward this way, see, when you step on your toes, it's going to rock this back. It's on a pin, so the whole thing's not going to go back. It's going to swivel. When it does, this has to move forward this way. When it moves forward, it has to pull against, if there's a wire there, which it looks like there is, up to here, it would pull into this cavity. I mean, it's designed, to me, it looks like that's the design. Now, I could be wrong, but it's certainly nothing like a human foot is now. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a bipedal foot. Or it could be 4-footed, it could be 10 feet. I have no idea. Zero idea. But you see this stuff in here, this fluffy stuff? And I think this was fluffy when it was alive, because that would have been the pad. It would have had to go and pull away from there, and then it would have to bump back in. And I think they might even call this material gumite. I'm not kidding you. So that's, and again, I have the same, well, it's not the same as that one. This one, though, I think might have springs as well. I really don't know about this one, but I believe there's a pin here and a pin right there. If you get it in the right light, you can see it. And then, of course, you can see that circular looking thing there. You know, a spring would bend up this way, and if this could pivot up and push against it and then come back down to rest on this one, I could see that's another design that might work. And this almost looks like it had a built-in sole. I mean, look at that. And this is where the fibula would sit. This right here is the tibia, comes down, the big bone. And then the fibula sits on the side like this, and between the two of them you can rock your foot. And they all break like that on the side, they just fall off because it's only held on by ligaments. This is a heavy-duty source of blood, as this was. There was a lot of blood here and a lot of blood here. The rest is just literal hide. I've looked at it in a microscope. It's exactly like leather. You know, like the thing had a shoe on, but it's not. I don't think it is. Well, I would say I'm certain it isn't. And look at this. You see, all of this stuff comes together like this hide, and it tags into a spot. All these heavy-duty investments have a latch that holds them in, and I think it's pinned right in there. You see, look at it. It almost looks like a medallion or something. Isn't that something? But anyway, this was before the current types of creatures, apparently. And these are these exceptionally preserved soft-body creatures. Yale says it could have been a failed evolutionary experiment. And it was. It literally was. And this is a hair follicle. So I don't have them just little. I have them here on my own property big. And they're a CAT scan, CAT scan, DNA tested. This is a hair follicle. You see this? You see this right here? That's the erector pili muscle. I've shown this 100 times too, because it's easy to show. It shows it's a giant. What kind of creature, I can't say for sure. But this is a human hair follicle. Now, that's the sebaceous gland. You see that blobby stuff there? That's obviously the hair shaft coming straight up through the top. And it has a flat side to that hair. So I'm told that that's a curly-haired person. Of course, there's the shaft coming down, and these are the vein and artery at the bottom. There's two little spots. So this is quite obviously a hair follicle, quite obviously large. And these, as far as I'm concerned, they all died at the same time, because they're basically all have the same signature, and they're all primarily flat on one side. Not all of them, but most of them. And there was all kinds of different creatures. This is 100% no question whatsoever. It's human. Be DNA tested, CAT scanned, you can see it. There's no anatomist in the world could deny that that's a lung. Impossible. And that is the impression of the heart. It's a left human lung. And no question it's human. It's been DNA tested. And apparently the guy died completely, still intact. And all of this stuff eroded off him, boiled off him, or acids or whatever, and it left things that were coated in fascia, which is collagens. Collagens protect everything, and they turn into aluminum silicates. And the reason our collagens are phospholipids. P is phosphorus. They're bilayer phospholipids, the phosphorus. They boil down, or some kind of chemistry forced them to go down into aluminum silicates. Every single feldspar, 100% of feldspar is aluminum silicates. And almost, they said if you can find a rock that's a crustal rock, and what a crustal means, there's a coating around, and like this. You just say, oh, it's just a rock. I know you break it open and it's got inside. No, that's inside, that's his neck. This is a goose or a duck or whatever. I'm not sure. Somebody says that the feather pattern isn't right for a goose. I don't know. But it does have a thing in the beak. They said, oh, there's no hole in the beak. I don't turn it around that often. It does have a hole in the beak. And he was talking about having teeth sticking out of it or something underneath. I have no idea. But this is some kind of waterfowl. Now, there was things our size, there was things a lot bigger. And they're right here on my property. And here's my other ones that are DNA tested. Look at this. Look at how perfectly preserved. And that's exactly what Yale says. Well, here's Yale's paper. Yeah. Exceptional preservation of soft-bodied. They call this Ediacara biota, which is this one layer worldwide from the flood, promoted by silica-rich oceans. The whole world was an ocean at that time. Yes, they're correct. Exceptional preservation. And then they go on to say, Lydia Tarhan, the first author on this paper, we would like to understand their relationship to the complex animals evolved shortly thereafter. All right, so they're saying it wiped out all this stuff. It says, are these Ediacara organisms some sort of failed evolutionary experiment? Well, yes, Lydia, it was. So don't forget, like I'm saying, almost all of them died. As far as I'm concerned, the mud fossils were created in a specific way. Just as Yale agrees, it was only because of the silicates that caused the aluminum silicates and preserved everything because of the fascia, which is the source of the phosphorus, which boiled down to the aluminum silicates. And everything with a membrane is a bilipid membrane, is a phospholipid membrane. So they're flat on the back because they died like this. Now this guy here died with the heart underneath him. Now what dissolved everything away and ended up just being a disassociated body part? And they're all over the place. They're all disassociated basically. Now this, I believe, died laying like that. You see how flat that is? And the fibula just fell off the side. But anyway, they're all separated on these fascia planes, and the collagens are the fascia, and which is the phospholipids, and there's got to be a lot of phosphorus in the which curled feldspar in feathers. I'm going to have to look into that. All right, this is interesting. There is a substantial amount of phosphorus. This is feather meal. They sell it to make your plants grow very green. Phosphorus has 8.4 grams per kilogram, apparently, which is not bad. It's right up in there. Calcium is only 12, so that's pretty high up there, I would say. Sulfur has 18. Sulfur is a very necessary element. Electrolyte balance. Anyway, wow, zinc, 130, oh, these are milligrams. These are grams. Wow. All right, that's pretty substantial, the phosphorus. Okay, so that solves that. Like I said, I get things from everywhere. This is from Greg Morrison. And he found things down, I believe this is either Tennessee, North Carolina, somewhere around there. This is the feathers. Look at the size of these feathers. And they look like they're turkey feathers. All right, this is a road. He's right next to this road. And this is a feather. All right, so he breaks off a piece of this feather and sends it to me. So what does Roger do with it? He shows it to you. All right, this is that feather. All right, you see it? It looks like the same color to me. I don't know about to you. Very, very similar. And here's the other side of it. It's the same color. That's a big size feather. That's a very, very thick feather. And this is not even the biggest feather I think that you would be able to find down there, because, you know, the Quetzalcoatl, I know, the guy's crazy. Well, I don't think so. When you see the evidence, you cannot not see it. If you don't see it, that's your issue. That is not my issue. The evidence speaks for itself. All right, so where do we leave off? I showed you the feather, I showed you the hair follicle, we saw the no-toe spring toes. I showed you that. I showed you the ball going through and eroding. Now these are the other kinds. There's all kinds of little tiny anchors in your body. They call them tendon enthesis. They're the end of these little straps, and they lock in a ball. And that it can snap right off of there. And that's what we do find quite often. That's why these balls all around the Earth. And they have a little spot. Normally you can see a spot where they did attach. And they break in a whole variety of ways, which we will be seeing this, because this is going to be a very long series. I don't see why. Everybody seemed to want me to go longer. And they like the longer ones. I thought it would be just the opposite. That's why I did a couple short ones and I got chastised. I will do. Might as well go through the whole things. So anyway, these are the little anchors, and they run into these little straps. All right, and they're going to show there's these different materials basically, and there's different anchor spots. These are enthesis, but they're tendons and ligaments coming from the muscles to the bones. Like I said, these are the rope-style tendons. All right, see the rope-style tendons. The other one with your ponerosis is the flat mat, which was this one here. This here. All right, hold on, let me gather my thoughts. All right, I don't think I showed you Tish's other feet she found. She found all these feet just like that. You see this? This is what I found very interesting. It looks like they have like little sausages sticking out of them. This one is not eroded as much as this one. This is a different one altogether. I mean, she's got a ton of them. And you see when the fibula comes down, it just falls right off. So right there, that's where, you know, of course it's highly eroded, but that's where the fibula would have come down, and the tibia would have come down, and the fibula would have sat over there and fell right off. You see, same thing over here. And that's just normal for these things. They just fall right off. So now we've gone through the feet. I showed you Scott Weil's stuff. And here's just to show you what the tendon fibers do. They come down just like this until they get down to these tiny, 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 tiny fibers. And then they lock in somewhere with these tiny, tiny, tiny little balls. And sometimes I think they might splay out just sort of fibers investing, I don't know, but the ones I normally see have the balls. All right, so that's how the fibers look. Now, I didn't show you my gigantic fingertip either. This is one that was on a DNA test. Now, I want you to take your time and look at this. All right, this right here is the front of the fingertip. All right, here, let me just point it out. Right here, zip, that's the front of the fingernail, and it's absolutely perfectly done, nice, well kept. And there's the fingernail itself. right, you see that shadow right there? Let me turn this off. Sometimes you get a better, hold on. I got lights all over this place. All right, now we're in the dark. Now, you see that little line there? This is actually the fingernail, and it comes right around here. I broke this piece off here because I couldn't get any DNA. There's no, your fingertips are like tough, and I'll show you why. Now, there is a little slab of fingernail that's, some of the fingernail had eroded, but this little piece you can see is still attached here. And the whole thing is just perfect. And it comes out around. Now, so I broke this piece off, drilled down inside and got the blood. And it came out excellent quality. Now, what are we seeing in the back here? This round circle here is a pad, like a little cartilage pad, that sits between this bone and the next bone. And again, these body parts are completely wrapped in their own little wrapping, which is the membrane. And then here's your artery and your vein. All right, so this is, it's flawless, absolutely perfect. So there's your fingernail, and it's 3 feet long approximately from here to the very other tip. So I called it a 36-inch tip, I think I called it, on the DNA report. Now, so this piece, when I broke it off, here's what it came off. It looks like this. This is a fingerprint. All right, it's the same as these right here. This is just a fingerprint. And my thumb is about as wide as that fingerprint ridge. They call them ridges. All right, and these are the sweat pores. You see the sweat pores? Yeah. And this is like, this is just exactly like that. It's like it popped right off in this slab. I thought I was really going to have to chisel away at it, so I just gave it a whack and it's popped right off. It's like a piece of skin, and it is. It's about, I don't know, ½ an inch thick, something like that. And that's what his skin was. It's just exactly like this. There's no difference whatsoever. And this is the fingerprints. So it's in pretty good, like the Yale says, exceptionally preserved. Now, so there we are at that point. What else can I show you? This is a mussel that's in my shop. All right, and this is part of the reason I want to show you this, because it has to do with Scott Weil's report on that gooey taphany and all that tendony stuff. Now, this right here is a bone. All right, some form of a bone. Socket, bone and socket, whatever it is. Now, this is a tendon, and it's locked in with this little circle here, and coming out here is a very, very heavy-duty tendon, and it shows better up in the picture up above. And this is the abrupt transition between the tendon and the muscle. Now, let's look at it up above. But don't forget, this is the glue. And I'm going to be talking about that glue in a second, because that's almost the same sort of stuff that Scott had. And we can look at it in a microscope, which I obviously will. But this is the bone that it was attached to. And it looks like there's something comes with this over here, and there's some attachment. So maybe the bone was on the other side of this, and this tendon locks it to the outside of the bone. It appears it's something like that, because it's a ball here and a ball here, and it looks like something's running over to attach here, and maybe and you can see some more tendon running this way. You really got to look at the details. You don't look at the details, you're just wasting your time. Ooh, look at that. Well, let's look at the details. So now, this ball, I'm going to say, is the major attachment for the tendon to lock to this. Let's call this a shoulder bone. I have no idea what it is. Let's just say it's a shoulder bone, and your muscle comes down here, and it comes up, and it has to attach to that bone somehow. And here's the attachment comes over. These are all also tendons. And they're going to be coming up, wrapping around this whole thing to give you support. Now let's look at it up above. All right, we can't see the bone in the one up above, but we will see this part right here. This is what I want you to see. There it is right there. You see it run down right down the center of this tendon. And this is brown because it doesn't need a lot of blood. It's a tendon. Tendons don't do a lot of work. They just are a spring. These do all the work, the muscles. And I will be putting this under the microscope at some point in time, and we'll be looking at these abrupt transitions. You see this right here? These are where muscles come out, and then there's like a transition zone where they become less mineralized, and then another one, and then another one. And I believe there's 3 normally after the tendon transition. And at that point, it's all muscle, and it's erodible, easy. You see this? This is the glue. All right, don't forget, the bone doesn't start till way over here. This is that gluey stuff on both sides. That allows this tendon to rock a little bit this way and that way. All right, you got to be flexible. So this locks it in to the bone with that strap that ran over to the bone. And that tab holds this main connection, which is the center. It has to be the center. That way there you can go this way, you can go that way, you can go this way, you can go that way. And I can show you something that's, well, I'll show it to you in a second. But this is the abrupt transition. This is tough as hell. And there's one sticking up out of the ocean, and it has all the same stuff, and it has the same circle, and it has the same white stripe coming down the center. And here it is, and they say this is supposed to be millions of years in one picture. I say no, that is a tendon. That is the tendon. The bone would have been right up here. Right, locked to that ball, just like the one I showed you that I have in my shop. And there would have been some gluey stuff around here and around here. And this would have been able to rock like this on a guy's body when he was alive. This gigantic creature, yes, absolutely, no question. And there's the center. And these little things can slide back and forth. That way there, you're flexible. This one here is not real flexible. This one here is the one that is the anchor. This is the one that says, okay, you follow me, and you follow me, and you follow me. I'm the leader here. You guys can slide back and forth. But I'm the one that's going to force you to go this way or that way. And then it hits in the muscle here, which is just gone. That's the only possibility that I can see, that this would be here in this thing, sitting in the middle of the ocean, or wherever it is. And it's tendonness. That's a tendon. I don't care what anybody says. That's a tendon. All right, remember I told you the tendon has to rock this way and that way, but it's anchored in the center? Well, here it is. There's where it's anchored. These are the tendon fibrils in this, giant creature. No, in between every one of these fibrils, there's what they call slurpees. You see this little... This is going to be juicy. When it was alive, this was like real juicy, and they could slide back and forth among themselves. All right. And then it's at a certain point, you go into the muscle. The muscle is weak and falls apart. But that's the anchor of a tendon. Basically, like I showed you on ours, a little different, but not too much. All right, this is something that I actually did discover, is interstitium, which is the flexible fabric, fluid-filled highway right underneath the skin, and it is saturated with these little balls. You see this? This is reality. And this is that fluid-filled highway, which is literally your immune system. That's where all the enzymes and bacteria go to destroy things or break down food and all that. Now, this is what they call the Moki marbles. All right, and these little tiny marbles were the same as these. And they lock skin in and so forth, so you could do all this kind of moving around and everything, but you always came back to where you started from. And that's what the milky marbles are, only the skin, the fleshy stuff has eroded away. This is Hunstanton Beach, over in United Kingdom. And that is the skin. Literally, that's the skin. Or at least it's the membrane. I'm going with skin. Now, this is the fleshy part. That's just the fleshy part. And all these balls held all that fleshy part in position so I could stretch and come and pull and stretch and pull and all these kind of things you do when you're alive. But you have to come back to where you started from. Now it's being eroded, and the only thing that can happen is the mud, which is from the flesh, turns into red clay and mud. I mean, that's what it is. Red clay and mud is flesh. It's washed away. It's kind of easily eroded. The ball's totally different situation. As you can see, they're hard. They're very, very hard, and creatures live on them. You see, all this stuff, I believe they call these stromatolites. And they say, oh, those are just little creatures growing out there. No, they're not. Those are creatures growing on the life-giving vital properties of biology. These are biology underneath. When you see some moss growing on something, like a rock, that's because there's blood in that rock. And it's going after that blood. They love blood. Plants love blood. They sell blood meal and they sell feather meal, both of those things. And they love them because they grow very strong in those. That's why even the Green Mountains are literally feathers. And I'm not kidding you. These are the creatures I'm talking about. There's nobody on earth could ever, 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 ever times a million consider. And they're still, even when they're confronted with the evidence, they still cannot even allow their mind to consider it. This is what bothers me. If you want to live in a fantasy land, well, that's up to you. But I want to show this stuff and have it seen. And it appears that it's not well received, and there seems to be some resistance to having it shown, because I'm getting very few hits, and I'm trying to put up some very credible information. And it is credible. There's no question it's credible. I have DNA tests, CAT scans and everything. Oh, by the way, let me show you those CAT scans. And they were done by Jesse Garant and Associates. They did the top guys in the world. I had the top people doing my stuff. I don't just, hope for the best. And I'll show you what they did. Absolutely fabulous. Jesse and Fabio and the whole crew up there, absolutely stunning work. Fabulous people to work with. Jesse Garant and Associates. Now let me show you what they did for us. They did 7 CAT scans. And they do 2D and 3D. Watch. All right, you really should understand how important it is to get the right person doing the right CAT scans and having the right equipment to do the job correctly. Jesse Garant and Associates, fabulous, fabulous. They do internal part inspection services. No, it's normally inside. I had them do, well, they did both for me. They just did it, and I'll tell you something later, it'll knock your socks off. They help companies internally inspect parts and assemblies with the lab-based CAT scanning industrial X-ray services. Now, what can they do? CAT scanning and X-ray sorting. And they can look deep inside and see virtually anything. They do aerospace stuff. I mean, really big stuff. Archaeology, that's what they helped me with. And I'm going to tell you what happened. I might as well tell you right now. I got a hold of them. I said, I got some stuff here, and it's, I believe it's biological, and would you CAT scan it? And they said, oh, absolutely, that's what we do. And I got to talking with Fabio, and who was my consultant there, and ends up, they did these CAT scans, no charge. All I had to do was get the stuff there, pay to get it there, and pay to get it back, and they did everything gratis because they were so interested in the science. Now, I hadn't talked about them much because there was a lot of pushback about this, even to the people that did my DNA work and some of the anatomy people that I worked with. They told me, don't mention my name. You're in really deep waters here that people don't want to hear about. And they don't want to hear about it. But anyway, they now are the leader as far as I'm concerned. They're the leader in all this stuff. Automotive, consumer products, defense and arms. They do it all. And nicest people you could ever imagine. And, not even paying them. I can't even imagine if you paid them. But Jesse, Fabio, you are the best, my friends, and I will never forget this. Now, let's take a look at your work. All right, I'm going to show you a fingertip that Jesse CAT scanned for me. Now, it came from this hand, which is a left hand. If you stuck your left hand out like this, the thumb goes that way, your little finger goes this way. There's a little cut right there, which is this. All right, and then there's a tendon that runs down. You see it right here? All right, I don't know if you mentioned or you saw it before or thought about it, but you see this silvery skin here is coming off of the red flesh underneath. This is what they call a grip skin, traction skin, friction skin, but it's the dense layer of skin that coats your hands and your feet and your fingertips and all that. And that is what I broke off of the other gigantic finger. This right here. It's this piece right here. That flakes off, and this is what you end up with is just the peeling off skin on the hand that I just showed you. All right, so here's the peeling off skin, and that's exactly what this is not thick compared to the other one. The other one is pretty thick. I don't know, maybe like I think figure a ½ inch. This is kind of thin, but this one here is this is about almost 4 feet wide, I think. Again, this goes a long time ago that I found all this stuff. I had all the tests done. This is it's almost 10 years ago. I had the CAT scans done and all that stuff. And I had found them long before that. And I kept trying. Nobody would listen. And finally, I decided I would get it all done. And they still won't listen. So it's one of those things. But anyway, let me show you the fingertip that Jesse and Fabio had scanned for me. And it's just, it changed everything, because you can see every little detail. All right, here we go. All right, let's start with this. This is the fingertip, and here's their 2D scan. You see that right there? That's where the fingernail was. You'd never see that. I would never ever have seen that. You look at this, you can't see it. All right, this is the killer. You got to take your time and look at this. This is where the bone was. All right, that's where the bone is. That is one of the tendons. You see that round little spot there, and it's black? You see that little round spot right there, and it's white around it? You see that little tiny hole right there, and that little tiny hole right there? The bone, and then this sort of a lump that comes off. You see it here? This is a thumb, and I can't remember. So, and the only reason you can tell it's a thumb is because thumbs have a part that hangs off the edge, like this one here. This is a right-hand thumb. You see this part that hangs off the edge right there? Your other fingers don't have that. So the bone sits on the side like that. Now, again, you would never see that. Here it is right here. It just looks like a big brown blob. You can't see that. This piece here I broke off just to look down at the bone. And you can see the bone in there. If you know what to look for, you can see it. It's there. It's just transitioned into some type of stone. And the type of stone it is dependent upon what the chemistry was in a particular area. Like this here, that's a hair follicle. I don't know what invaded it, but it turned it into this, yellowish looking stuff. This was a true mud fossil. This was deep into some flesh, just basically muddy flesh. And it just absorbed into it and turned it into basically the same thing. When it dries out, they call it mudstone. But there's still basalt inside there. And there's actually this one little spot right there, that one little white spot is the last bit of bone in this. You can see it in the microscope when you look at it. That's still a little tiny piece of bone. All right, so they all transition, and some of them didn't hardly transition at all. Look at that. That's just like a piece of meat. Just like a piece of red meat. Fascia, the flap, the whole 9 yards. So this was the 2D scan, which is absolutely fabulous for this type of work, because when you do the nucleophilic substitution like this, you look inside there, you're not going to see anything. There's no definition, basically, because it's been transitioned. Now I'm going to show you this in the 3D, and it's nowhere near as good to represent it as the 2D. You can see it, but there's so much transition that there's very little to see, other than you can see the shadow of the bone. Basically, that's about it. And you can see some blood vessels coming up through there to feed, but that's about it. All right, this is the problem with the 3D scan, is that the best you're going to do is get this faint pattern where the transition of the bone into the fleshy part is. And you can see, just like I showed you, there it is, the bone. And of course it has the blood vessels running up to service the tissue, and there's some more around because everything has to be serviced with blood. But this is about the best you're going to do with the 3D. You know, there's just very little definition. There's not much to see. But the 2D is really fabulous. I thought it was just amazing. Look at how much you can see. You see that? Look. That's a tendon. That's a tendon, and that right there is the blood vessel that goes up with it. And this is the bone. And here's the other tendon. It's identical to, they're both parts are the same, only one of them is black and one of them is whitish looking. And that's because there's red and black blood. And I'm not sure which is which, but I think this is the red blood side. Anyway, that's how important the 2D scan is. And again, Jesse, Fabio, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. All right, as we go through all of the stuff we're going to be going through, the tendons break right at the ball here, most of the time. Most of the time they break right at the ball, and they leave a little opening gap, almost like an eggshell has broken off in one little area. And then the ball, it continues on, and they're all over the place. I showed you, I mean, they're literally everywhere. So when they say, oh, it's just a strange thing, no, they're just everywhere, and nobody's ever talked about them before because they're too spectacular to discuss. So, because they came out of these things, but these creatures were so big that these little balls, instead of being microscopic, they're small. Well, here's one right here. Whoops, there's one right there. All it is a ball like that, and that's where one of these little tendon straps would have locked in right here. And this one here disassociated long ago and has all this crust formed on it. And the Moki marbles, those turned into like a metal almost. Well, pretty much they are. So it depends on where they are. Some of them turn into like a real dark sandstone looking color. Some of them get a very crusty looking feldspar coating. This is basically that style. And it depends on how it ended up, where it was when it ended up being. Like I have one over here, hold on. You see this one? This is there's ones that have a real shiny looking ball, and that's all this is, the ball. And then the strap, it literally is right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but if I put some water on there, put it under the microscope, you can see exactly how it attached. And there's a black blood, and there's going to be some red blood around here somewhere. I think it's over in here. And there's the attachment of the strap. And of course it's all broken up and smashed up and all that stuff, and there's the thing. And so a lot of stuff to look at in these. And nobody ever looked at that. You'd never look at that. You say, it's just a rock. Well, it is until you find these signatures of life all over. That is that's basically an artery. Or, I'm sorry, not an artery. This is one of those tendon investments. And you can see the round circles around. I have to put it in a microscope to get a good look at it, but I believe that's what it is. I could be wrong. I mean, this is kind of new for everybody. But the black indicates the black blood, and the red indicates the red blood, and they usually are found pretty close together, and that's what we're seeing right there. So, as far as I'm concerned, that is another one of these oddball anchor balls. Any of these geodes and all that stuff they talk about, those are primarily the same sort of stuff as this. Now, I had seen this long ago and posted about it, because this is Vermilion Cliffs, and this is, as far as I'm concerned, stomach tissue, as is this. And then I also had some other ones. I studied Vermilion Cliffs pretty good, but I'm not there. I can't walk around there and look at things in close detail. But I can see this stuff. I know what's going on here. This is all red blood, very close to the surface of a membrane that is a permeable membrane. It can absorb and spit out stuff into the system to get rid of it or to absorb it. And this is really literally blood. And this is tissue, layers of tissue, and they surround the very absorptive blood that just pumps all through there to absorb whatever. All right, I think that's probably about it for today. I think I started off by showing you this feature here. Now, again, this is Breet. And he's saying it's the most unusual things he's ever seen, and it is exactly what the picture shows. Now, this is my contention, is that is a tube. It's not just the edge of the thing, it's a tube. And running down from that is blood, because that is an artery. And this, I believe, is a heart. And these, I believe, are muscle fibers that have broken off. Heart is just completely wrapped with muscle fiber. But if you look at this tube, I mean, it is a tube. It's not just the edge of the rock. All right, now can I show you what a heart would look like? Yes, I can. It's right here. I believe that's exactly what you were looking at. All right, and all this stuff runs down from the edge of it, and I could see some of those. Let's see if we can see those. You see it right there? I think these are what you were just looking at right there with the blood vessels coming off. And this is the tube that fed them. And it's a pretty good sized creature that would have that heart. And there's that major tube coming down. All right, so that brings us back to where we started from, I believe. Now, he has a ton of stuff. I mean, some fabulous, fabulous stuff. So, we're going to be looking at things like this, and how can we explain that? What could we possibly come up with to explain that? Here's what he's saying about this one. Bizarre and wonderful at the same time. Mother Nature likes her science fiction every now and again. It definitely looks like it belongs in another planet. Well, the other planets have the same things, actually, to be perfectly honest with you. We're going to be looking at Mars, too. We're going to be looking at everything. We're looking at the asteroids, the comets, other planets, ancient texts. What did they say about all this stuff? Well, how did they deal with this stuff? Was there anything written about it? I suppose that's what we're going to have to do, is go back into all that. But I have a ton of stuff. You saw all my stuff. My stuff's DNA tested, CAT scanned. There is no question these things existed. And as I showed you, Yale agrees that this was, as I said, exceptional preservation from silica-rich oceans. And yes, it was a failed evolutionary experiment. This is written in these ancient texts. Now, this is too much for them to live with, so they've sort of backed away from this. This goes back to 2016. I wrote my paper 2015. They wrote basically the same thing I said in 2016. Even here, silica-rich oceans, much more silica-rich than they are today. It's enabled the transformation of these animals into rock to occur over a matter of hours or years rather than thousands or millions of years. And this was before, all right? We'd like to understand the relationship to complex and it evolved shortly thereafter. This was all new. This is all new stuff. Nobody's ever seen it before. Nobody had an idea that these rocks were actual creatures that were preserved in this silica-rich ocean, this one layer called the Ediacara. And this is it. All right, so don't forget, exceptional preserved soft-body creatures, just what I showed you. And then they say this happened, Earth's earliest fossilized ecosystem are my creatures. Complex macroscopic multicellular organisms occurs in a terminal Ediacara strata worldwide because of silica-rich oceans because they were worldwide. This was the Great Flood. Now, if you're educated and really smart, you're never going to believe this. And here's what it said. That's, again, it was a failed evolutionary experiment. And what did Jesus have to say? Jesus said, "He who has recognized the world has found the body." All right, so you found a body, and I think 56 is another one that he says you found a corpse. Jesus said, "He who has come to understand the world has found only a corpse. And he who has found a corpse is superior to the world." Well, if you can live with the truth that you see, you are superior to the world. I can't find anybody that feels like they're educated. They've spent a bunch of money being told what to think, and now they realize this is not true. I mean, I don't know if they realize it or not. Are they that mental-sided? I think they are. You see this? They cannot talk about religion in class, in schools. They'll throw you right out. They'll ruin your life, literally, for having that slant on things. And menticide is a systemic effort to undermine and destroy a person's values and their beliefs. Exactly what happens in schools. They used to prolong interrogation, drugs, torture to induce radically different ideas. Well, they're forcing you to take on their idea of what the world is like and what our history is like and what your eternity will be like. And it does not include God or religion or any of that stuff. It seems to be that that's just taboo. And really, you can't speak about it without being considered an outlier, somebody way out on the edges, weak of mind, to be able to consider these things possible, that there was a God, that Jesus was as advertised. Was he a real, thinking he could do miracles and all that stuff? That seems like nonsense. Well, everything I have shown you would seem like insanity. And it even still does seem like insanity. I can't say it doesn't. I would have never, ever accepted this if I hadn't have discovered it and found it and did the research. I probably I wouldn't look at it either. I'd probably say, the guy's nuts. What a crazy guy, looking at rocks, going, all this crazy stuff. No, I didn't, that's not what I did. I looked at rocks and I said, whoa, I got to look closer, and I did. And I can support every word I'm saying. And this is just the edges. I got much, 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 much more to show. And it's well supported, and then we have to incorporate the ancient texts that speak of these things and try to consider, well, is there any meaning to that? Does it have a meaning in your life now? Is it just something that's, oh yeah, it's like Marvel comic books or something, and you know, that stuff now is starting to look pretty good. A lot of that stuff is more true than the stuff you read in the textbooks. The stuff in the textbooks is just absolutely a waste of time. And they know it now. That's the key. Unless they don't, I've presented this to literally all of them. I mean, I've contacted so many people. You can't even imagine. I finally gave up. I said, it's ridiculous. I'm just wasting my time. And no, there's no response. No. I just even did it just the other day to, I think it was University of Texas in Austin. No response. You don't get any responses from anybody. And they're making all these claims. And all I'm doing is saying, can you look at this? You've made this claim. I'd like to know what you think of my claim. And that just doesn't happen. And it's pretty much now, it's all related to funding. You have to come up with something spectacular. Not backed by anything, because once you back it by something, it's all over. This way here, you can keep saying it 100 times over with a new little twist here and a twist there. I'm showing you the evidence that exists. You don't have to twist anything here. It's all right in front of your face. So it's time to incorporate other things in your life other than what your professors say. There's things in schools, absolutely certain, that are good, that you want to learn how to build things, how to program things, how to, even some of the things about how to think. But they haven't proven to me that they know how to think in the schools. They just don't know how to think. They know how to repeat. The first words they ever repeat to me, almost 100% of the time, is this peer-reviewed? I say, no, it's not necessarily peer-reviewed. They really won't review it because it doesn't fit into their, their idea of what everything should be like. And they'll say, well, that's because you're an idiot. Of course they're not going to peer-review anything like that. He's an insane guy. So here I am still being insane. And I know you people that are watching this, if you're stuck in and watch all that I've just shown you, there's no way that you can deny this. Now, you can be afraid to speak to this to your friends about it and sort of hide it, but that's not, I don't do things like that myself. I don't know if you do. Well, I know a lot of people do. I know, they just won't, I don't want to talk about it, nobody's going to ever speak to me again. I've had, and I can understand that as a business person. I've had people tell me, I said, don't use my name. Here, yes, don't use my name. One guy asked if I could, and he said, what are you doing, trying to ruin my life? And it's true. That's an absolute fact. And that's exactly what happened to me. As soon as I brought all this stuff out in like 2014, 2015, it was just assault after assault after assault until, there's only a certain distance you can go. Now, don't forget, these are all different places he's been to. I think he's been to all, or most of them, let's put it that way. He talks about being there and seeing this and doing that. Now, if I could have somebody on site that was in that area, or in any area that can go right up personal and close, that would be fabulous. I mean, I would really enjoy that. Now look at this here. He's got so many, it's unbelievable. Look at this. What would cause that? What could possibly cause that? They're identical. 2 bumps here. Identical with the things popping up the back. How is that even possible? What could have formed that? What's the geological process here? I don't think you're going to find any geologist that can explain that. I think I can. And I think I can explain virtually everything he's showing. And he's got a lot of detail on the things that he's presenting, which that's a problem with me. I get so much stuff from people, and I have no nothing to, no details. They just send me pictures. He's got all the details here. And again, this is all, I'm going to highlight him. I'm going to do a tribute to him on my channel about his research. Look at this. And he's right here. He's right there just touching this stuff. This is nothing more than muscle fibers. And I know the places I want him to look at, like this yellow up here. What's this? I'm telling you, it's probably some sulfur or something. Who knows? We could do some samples. We could do some chemistry. And I'm telling you right now, we may even be able to find things that they don't know about in the human body right now, in the creature's bodies. Interstitium was one of them. I discovered interstitium, which is a fluid-filled highways that they never saw, because by the time they got it, it was flat as a pancake. So we might even discover some other new stuff in the body. I discovered the latch. This latch that's on the bottom of the lungs. Nobody knew about that before. It's completely different than the rest of the tissue. And I'm sure there's other stuff. All right, the fluid-filled highway in the interstitium now is where literally where your immune system lives. That's the highway that sends all the enzymes and the bacteria around to break up the chemistry, to kill things, or to go and break down food and so forth, so you can do all the chemistry in your body that's required. Otherwise, without the enzymes, you're done. Anyway, this is all. There's so many ways to go with this, but the first thing is we're going to look and see that this is true. All these ancient texts were true, and to me, they certainly have meaning. They didn't write them and say all these things about the future, what your life is going to be like, and what eternity is going to be like, and all that. If it had no meaning, there's got to be some meaning there. To me, there's some meaning. No, to you, maybe it's just exciting, or maybe it doesn't matter to you. But to me, I've already determined a lot of stuff that I want to determine. But now I just see it as just a general calling to show people that this is our true reality. And there's this quote somewhere in there. It says, God said, I have no greater joy than to see my children walk in truth. All right? And I love you all. And I want to see us all walk in truth together. All right? It's sometimes it can be a hard road to walk on. You'll be walking by yourself, because people are not going to accept this. They're not like this. It's a little too much to bear. As one woman put it to me, it is jarring. And I agree. But if you want to live in truth, then you have to at least examine it and see, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but what I'm seeing, I don't think that's the case. I think the case is we have to look at it and think about it, and then look and see what the ancient text said about it. To me, that's as important as knowing this. So what's the consequence of knowing it if it has no consequence? It's just, wow, look at that, holy smokes, have a nice day. So anyway, I love you. Let's see if we can just all think about this together. I mean, it is jarring. There's no question whatsoever. All right, just do the best you can with it. All right, we'll talk soon, and we're going to go through all of every one of these pictures, and we'll try to figure out what they are, and I'll try to show you representations and anatomical stuff, and then I'll ask if he can go and look at this or look at that and see if they can come up and look at the. I'll have a lot of specific requests from somebody. I don't care who it is, to be honest with you. This guy, he's out there doing this job. That would be fabulous. And, I'll promote his channel. He can promote my channel. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I just want to use his research, and I want you to know it is his. It's not mine. Some of the stuff is mine as much as it is his. There's a lot of these pictures are just floating around on the web. So I've looked at them, but to have a guy actually be able to go there, and a guy actually walked up and touched this stuff, that's a whole new realm for me. Tyson's like that. He's got his own stuff out there, and he's up there touching it and everything. Here, I don't have to go anywhere. All my stuff is just sitting on the surface. So, and I don't have to do a whole lot, which is kind of nice because I'm not good at doing a whole lot. But the stuff that I found here is big. It's enormous too. I mean, look at the hair follicle. That's just huge. The 36-inch long fingertip. That's a little extraordinary. And the whole area here. Sleeping Giant is right down the road from me, almost. And it's a giant. To me, I've done the detailed look at that, no question whatsoever. And I will show that one again as we get deeper into this. He's going to be very long. People, I did some real shorty ones, and I got people said, "Oh, why'd you go so short? Why don't you make them like you were doing?" Because I was doing them for an hour or more than an hour, and I'm sure this is going more than an hour. So I'm going to cover right here. I love you. Goodbye.